Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on wherever you are. Welcome to our special series. Today, we are going to be speaking about the need for local manufacturing of diagnostics in Africa. And we are going to use the case of our colleagues from the Moroccan Foundation for Advanced Science, which we affectionately call MAScIR. So this is an important subject at this point in time, as you are all aware. To move on, manufacturing of diagnostics across the continent is one of those key priorities that everybody has realized is something that we need to do. I think the lessons learned from the COVID-19 pandemic were clear when it came to the time of the crisis, when the crisis was at its peak. I think all the manufacturers and suppliers had to do the only natural thing that anybody else could do. And most of the time is always satisfying the local markets first. And as a result, the African continent, because we did not have many of these close to ourselves, we were, so to say, on the receiving end of this crisis. As a result, I think it is important that if we are to ensure this commodity security in future for routine and emergency purposes, it is important that we ensure that these diagnostics, at a minimum, are available close to where they are needed, that is locally. And we are glad that some of our colleagues have already started, and we have local manufacturing happening in a few parts of the continent. We know it's happening in South Africa. We know it's happening in Senegal. We know it's happening in Morocco, which is the subject of the matter today. And this session will be 1 hour long, as usual, which we will start with a presentation from two renowned speakers, and then we will have a question and answer segment at the end. I encourage you to keep your questions and comments coming through the chat, and we'll address them as we go to the end. A reminder that, as usual, we have French to English language interpretation, for which you need to only shift to the channel of your choice, English or French. Colleagues, allow me to introduce our speakers today. We will have two speakers, Professor Hassan Sefrioui and Sefrioui, and Professor Abdelai Dim Moumin. So Professor Hassan is the director and senior management advisor, member of the MAScIR executive board. He is also a member of the World Health Organization Diagnostic and Technical Advisory Group and the UK Longitude Prize Juggling Panel. He has over 20 years experience in research and development experience in both the industrial and academic settings. Professor Hassan holds a PhD in medical science from the University of Leuven, Belgium, and a postdoctoral position from the University of California, San Diego, USA. He has spent 10 years within the European biotech industry sector, including the direction of drugs department at the TGNX company, a subsidiary of the multinational company Takeda. In 2010, Prof. Sefrioui joined the Moroccan Foundation of Science as a director of Medical Biotechnology Center, where under his leadership, the team developed the Morocco's first diagnostic test kits. He will be joined by Professor Abdelai Dim Moumin, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the startup, MODIAG, which develops and manufactures innovative tests for molecular diagnosis for several predominant diseases that are in Morocco as well as Africa. And some of these includes conditions such as cancer and also for some infectious diseases. He's also a research and development project manager in medical technology, biotechnology at the MAScIR Foundation in Rabat. Prof. Mumin has more than 15 years experience in the execution, management, direction of R&D with several internationally renowned research institutions, including Institut Pasteur, the Wellcome Trust, Gordon Institute, the University of Cambridge, University of London, and in various fields of the Medical Biotechnology Center. Recently, Professor Mumin won with the startup, the first prize of the African Entrepreneurship Award, which was awarded by the BMCE Bank of Africa Group for innovative awards in Africa. So colleagues, we are in safe hands. I would like to hand over to our two esteemed speakers to take us through the presentation today, and thereafter we can take some comments. Over to you, Prof. Hassan and Prof. Mumin.
Well, thank you, Anafi, for this presentation. I would like first to thank SLM and CDC Africa of the African Union for their support and for allowing us today to present our success story in the development and manufacturing of diagnostic tests in Morocco. But in the meantime, we will discuss about the challenges that faces the diagnostics manufacturing in Africa, and also the potential solution that may help to move forward the manufacturing of diagnostics tests in Africa. But first, I will start with our institution, MAScIR, which is the Moroccan Foundation for Advanced Science, Innovation and Research. So this foundation is affiliated to University Mohammed VI Polytechnic in Belgrade. And our foundation, MAScIR, was created in 2007 by the Moroccan government with the goal to develop market applied research in microelectronic, nanomaterials, and biotechnology. Presently, we are around 200 scientists, and we have around 180 patents and over 750 publications. We have also 10 startups that emerged from the research. Two of the startups, one of them we are going to talk today is Moldiag, that has several products in the market already, and including the COVID-19 tests. And we have over 100 projects running at MAScIR. As I said, the goal is to promote scientific research and mainly applied research, and translate this research to product through technology transfer and the creation of spin-offs, and eventually go to the incubation of startups. So we have several ISO certificates, and we have a platform that with a size of around 1,700 square meters. So regarding the HR at MAScIR, so we are around 41% of women and 59% men. The scientists are quite young, so the majority is between 25 and 35, and they are coming from all the region of Morocco. As I said, we have 3 departments: material, nanomaterials, microelectronic, and the biotechnology. With the biotechnology, we have the green biotech that focus mainly on agriculture field. And we have the medical parts where we are going to talk today. And in this department, we are developing diagnostic tests and some recombinant protein for the treatment of several diseases. For the collaboration, so basically MAScIR works in different way with its partners, like R&D contract, service contract. Sometimes we do joint development, and we do also tech transfer And also we participate in several calls, grant projects. And on the right side, you can see some of our partners, either national ones or international ones. For the medical part, we are working in collaboration with Africa CDC, with PASTEUR, Dakar, with Merck, Mologic, and we have other partners for the medical part. But we have also partners in the other field for microelectronics and nanomaterials. In this slide, you can see some of our partners worldwide. So we are collaborating with the partner in Europe, in Canada, in US, in Africa, and in Japan. Let's come now to the medical diagnostic testing that we have developed here at MAScIR, and they will be described by my colleague Vladim later on in details. Basically, we have developed several tests. Some of them, they are in the market, like the COVID-19 PCR test. We have sold around 5 million tests in Morocco and some African countries. We have other tests for hepatitis C, breast cancer, and leukemia. They are registered here in Morocco. And we believe that we will go to the market next year. We have also for tuberculosis tests. And we have other tests under validation for microfluidic chip and rapid tests for COVID-19 and other tests. Basically, our strategy of business is really to develop the tests, and then we have created startups like Moldiag that is manufacturing these tests. And also we have another option is to license the tests to pharmaceutical partner, either in Morocco or abroad, and MAScIR will get royalties for this licensing. I come now to the most important point, which are the challenges that faces local manufacturing diagnostics in Africa. So as you know, in Africa, the investment and financial is big issue. So for the local manufacturing, we are lacking this investment and financial. And also there is difficulty to run clinical validation because you need to validate these tests in a reference center. And sometimes these reference centers, they are lacking some equipment or some scientific researcher. And also there is difficulty to register these tests in this country, in African countries. Also, there is lack of political will and support to invest in test manufacturing. Another important point is also the difficulty to access to the market, and the regulation is quite unclear between different countries in Africa. Also, as you know, there is always preference for imported diagnostic tests because people believe that these ones are better than the one they are manufactured locally. And also important point is the lack of innovative technology platforms like platform for RT-PCR, for sequencing, gene sequencing, for microfluidics. Another point also, sometimes there is lack of technology and technical skilled scientists, technicians, and the regulatory bodies. Another point is also the market is not so attractive in low and middle income countries, and the local manufacturer cannot compete with the multinational ones. And also the sourcing of the raw materials, because sometimes we had these problems also in Morocco, and it happens elsewhere in Africa, that when you order these raw materials to manufacture diagnostic tests, sometimes it takes 2 months, 3 months, even 6 months to get these raw materials, which make difficult to manufacture the tests within the time. So some of the policy requirements, what we have to do and what the government has to do is some proposition is to include local manufacturing in national government and trade priority. Also facilitates importation of raw material for local production, finding some fund for R&D in diagnostics, also creates some spin-offs and spin-outs and incubator for startups to promote manufacturing. And another important point is the promotion of public-private partnership to find infrastructure and regulatory challenges as collaborative ecosystem. Another point is also to have a clear regulatory and ethic for animal and human experiments. And most important is without the local government need to recognize the value of diagnostic, we cannot go further. What are the possibility and the resources and enablers to go further, to move forward this manufacturing in Africa? So to my point, the government need to create pathway for access to market and to purchase local manufacturing of tests. Another important point is the political will to include local manufacturer in the national budget, because this manufacturer, they need a financial, and then it's very important that the government help this manufacturer with an interesting budget. Also, we need to attract scientists with expertise. We have a lot of scientists abroad. They have quite big experience in developing and manufacturing diagnostic tests. We need to focus on these scientists and to bring them to Africa to help the development of the African countries. Also, we need also to attract funding like VC and business angel to help moving forward this manufacturing. The important point also is the specific regulatory process, the raw material availability, training of health professional, and also sometimes the manufacturing of these diagnostic tests need some certification, ISO certification. We need to train these people to perform these techniques and certification. Also, the IP and tech transfer licensing, also this need also to put it in place, and the creation of incubators for startups, for young business to be performed in African countries. And finally, I think without the stability of and the economy of the countries, this manufacturing of diagnostic tests cannot be allowed. So we need really political and economic stability within the African countries. One solution and what proposition is to do is really to have to establish a roadmap in order to explore, communicate the linkage between research and product development to commercial and market opportunities. And this can be done via, for example, organizing a workshop between different health institutions within the African state members, and can involve also the CDC Africa, the World Health Organization, and organize this workshop to find solution how we can pass through the challenges and propose solution to go further and develop and manufacture diagnostic tests in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. I would like to welcome Prof. Up to continue.
Okay. Thank you very much, Anafi, for the invitation, and thank you everyone for the presence and for the attention that you give to our case and our projects that maybe will be something that we can copy and make it realizable also in some African countries. I hope so. So what I'm going to talk about right now is that I'm just giving you an idea about a project that has started from the bench and get to the market. This is so interesting for our continent because we need to be more independent. You know, if independent for a lot of items that we bring from outside. Here in Morocco, for instance, we have been interested in the development and the manufacturing of molecular diagnostic tests, because the fact is that all the tests that are used here in Morocco are imported from outside, and this makes a huge dependence on these items, which are very important and very interesting to our health system. I'm Professor Abdeladim Moumen. I am the director of the Diagnostic Kits and Medical Device Laboratory in Morocco, in MAScIR, and also I'm the CSO of the Moldiac startup that has manufactured and commercialized the developed tests. So why do we have to develop this kind of tests? These kind of tests, in terms of medical aim, are needed for the identification of the disease, as well as the quantification, because sometimes we need to quantify the disease in order to make sure how can we monitor the disease and also how to orient toward a specific treatment. So the molecular diagnostic tests are becoming very important in the health system, in order to make the health system occurring very quickly and in a smooth way. As I have said, the problem here in Morocco, and I think in most African countries, all molecular tests are imported, and this increases hugely the price of the tests. For instance, here in Morocco, sometimes the test could cost something like $300 for a test, and most of the time, the sample are sent abroad in order to be analyzed, and this costs a lot for the patient and also for the government. This is why we thought to sort out this problem by developing ourselves this kind of tests and make them available to the patient here in Morocco and also to the African patient, as we have started to export our stuff to African countries. So the solution is the development and production of 100% made in Morocco tests. So, as I have said, we design, develop, and clinically validate 100% molecular diagnostic kits here in Morocco, develop at the level of the laboratory here in the MAScIR Foundation, validated also at the level of the laboratory, and after that, in collaboration with clinicians, we validate our tests with the, with the pathologists, with oncologists, and with people who are interested by our tests, and also depending the field in which we are working, whether it is infectious diseases or cancer, as you will see. So we have until now developed several molecular diagnostic tests dealing with different diseases. And we have started by working on cancer. The first test that we have developed was designed to quantify the chronic myeloid leukemia, and this will enable the doctor to know exactly when he has to stop the treatment. And this is very important. Once the patient has this CML disease, he needs to know the quantity of cancerous cells in his blood. And this why, because we have a very efficient drug that will kill this kind of cells, so we have to follow up the treatments throughout the time. And if we need to do so, we have to use this kit developed by MAScIR. Of course, there is a lot of kits which are similar to the MAScIR one, but as I have said, the test is very expensive. And this is a very good example for the cost of the test For instance, the cost of the test here in Morocco for this kind of test is something like 250 euro, which is, which is quite similar to $250 at the moment. The second test that we have developed that was for breast cancer, and this time is to quantify a protein which is called HER2, which is very important for the pathologist and the oncologist to know, because we need to orient the treatments. HER2 overexpressed in breast cancer need to be treated with a specific antibody called trastuzumab, and this trastuzumab doesn't have to be given to any breast cancer without making sure whether it is a HER2 overexpression breast cancer. So this test is so important to know exactly what kind of treatment we should give to the diseased person. And this kind of tests for cancer are quite expensive in Morocco as well. After that, we started to be interested in other diseases, mainly infectious one that could be more interesting for African countries. Like, for instance, hepatitis C diagnostic kit that will measure the quantity of the virus in a given blood. And this is so important as well, because we can follow up the disease throughout the time by treatment, and we can decide whether we have to stop the treatment or not. Another test, also based on the same technology that we'll talk about later on, is for the detection of tuberculosis. As you know, tuberculosis is a very widespread disease and needs to be analyzed quickly in order to give the right medication. So this test could give you a result in something like that less than an hour, and this is so important. And the last but not least is our SARS-CoV-2 detection kit that we have recently developed during the pandemic in order to respond to this pandemic. And fortunately for us, of course, and fortunately for the diseased person, fortunately for us, we've been able to go into the markets by the last kit that has given us a brand at the moment. And we have shown that we've been able to develop, validate, and also commercialize this kind of kit. So these kits are all CE labeled as well as authorized here in Morocco to be sold. And also it could be also sold in some African countries if we need so. The method that we are using in most of these kits is called the real-time RT quantitative PCR. I think with the COVID-19 pandemic, everyone now is aware about what is qPCR. It's a method that it is used to amplify the genome of a virus, of a given cell, in order to quantify it or in order to detect it. So for the COVID-19, for instance, we need to extract the RNA because the COVID-19 genome is an RNA, and this RNA, in order to be measured by the qPCR, it has to be converted first to a cDNA, and this cDNA will be amplified by the qPCR, which will give us a curve that, like you see here, that will give us, an idea about the quantity of the RNA extracted and also the virus present in this sample. So there is both detection and quantification could be performed by this method. This method is very quantitative, and it starts to be a routine in several laboratories. In these methods, we can use several samples. It depends what we are looking for, whether we're looking for cancer cells, whether we're looking for DNA from infectious disease, and we can use several matrix like blood, urine, and also biopsies. So all our tests have been using these methods, except the tuberculosis one, which uses another amplification mediated method, which is called LAMP. And this method, in contrast to qPCR, doesn't need several temperatures to be performed. Just one temperature, which is 65 degrees, and in 1 hour we can detect the genome of tuberculosis. So all our tests have been developed in a very standard way just to meet international standards. The idea behind the development is to make available our kits to the markets. And if we want to be within the market, we have to meet a lot of standards, and we have to be very accurate, specific, sensitive, and efficient, because we will get a lot of competition from outside, of course, because we are quite new and we have to be the best, the maximum better than we can in order to be in the market. This is why our tests have been developed meeting all international standards, following the ISO 13485, and also all our tests will be qualified by the OMS, by the WHO, sorry, the WHO Foundation. They are specific, sensitive, efficient, and mainly, and this is our main objective, is to be very cost effective. And this is the idea behind founding MAScIR Foundation here in Morocco. Another thing which really featured our kits is that all our kits can use several machine PCR. They are, they are open system kits, because we can use several machines, and we are not like the one that automated system in which you need to use the specific reagent in a specific machine, and this will close the possibility to use any other reagent. Our kits have been developed in order to be used in several machines, and it has been they have been validated in several machines. We can use them in several machines, so we're not limited by the type of the machine that the laboratory has. Of course, in order to get into the market, MAScIR has created a spin-off called MASdiag, and this spin-off has been the unit of production here in MAScIR that has been able to produce something like 5 million tests during the pandemic. Most of them has been used by the government of Morocco here, and authorized with the Ministry of Health, and all hospitals, all public hospitals and laboratory are using our tests here in Morocco. Recently, as Professor Hassan said, we start to export our tests to some African countries via the CDC. And we have export our tests to Tunisia, to Ivory Coast, Senegal, and also to Rwanda. So this is a small story of what we call going from the bench to the market. We have other molecular tests which are under development, like molecular tests for prostate cancer, hepatitis B, influenza, another kit that we are developing at the moment, differentiating between COVID and influenza as well. And also we are developing a platform that will develop and validate quick tests, rapid tests, or LFA tests for COVID-19, hepatitis C, and Helicobacter. Before finishing, the platform could be used also to develop other tests which are this time not towards human health but also for animal health food industry. Before finishing, I just want to show you the young team that has been able to develop this kind of kits, and all of them are Moroccan and coming from Moroccan university that we've been able to form and to make them very efficient. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm very happy to get any question and responding.
Great. Thank you both for the wonderful presentations, and I can see questions have begun to come through in the chat. Important questions indeed. So I think let me start by asking this question. You have begin manufacturing of quite a number of tests. I think you had cancer markers, hepatitis, TB, and then recently SARS-CoV-2. What informed you in terms of which products you want, which tests do you want to manufacture for Morocco?
Okay, so the main thing is our interaction with the market, as well as interaction with the clinician and the end user. The end user for us is the medical laboratory, pathologists, the hospitals. So we interact with clinician and see what happened, what kind of test that we have to develop in order to respond to the need that we have here in Morocco first. And after that, when we start to get our kids going outside Morocco, we also interact with clinicians outside by congress, conferences, webinar like this, just to show them our ability and what kind of competencies that we have to respond to their need.
I want also to add here that we are also looking for several infectious disease. As you know, in Africa, there is big problem with infections. So MAScIR is really focusing also on tuberculosis, on malaria, on other disease that may affect really the patients. And infectious disease is very important for us. We have cancer tests, but the most of the focus is now on the infectious diseases.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you. Moving on, you mentioned that one of the most important elements that we need to consider as we think of sustainability of our local manufacturing is the market. And I can see some questions that are already coming through. There are certain key elements and criteria that the market really wants to look at. I see questions on how do I know, let me just try and see if I can pull this one. How do I know that your products are of good quality? I'm trying to pull out the exact terminology. How do I know that your kits are good? There are a lot of kits on the markets that are not reliable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, after development, actually what we do is that we have to validate our test, because even for the authority here in Morocco, they have to know that our kit is good if we compare it to what it is provided by other company. So there is a very well standard with the authority here, so we have to respect it. So validation has to be done in a independent entity that will do all the things needed to make sure that the kit works fine and in a very good condition. And if we compare it to what it is very well known, for instance, if I give you an example for hepatitis C, our test has been compared to the one from Roche, which is a big company and which is very well known by its accuracy and everything that you need for a kit. Another thing, for the COVID-19, it has been validated by several institutions, including the Pasteur Institute in France. And we've been among the first best kits and the shortest one in the list, if you compare it to Thermo Fisher, to Abbott, to other very big companies that are older than us. So all of these things needs to be validated. And this another thing that we do as well is that if someone wants to buy our kits, we can provide him with a test amount, and he tests it, compare it with what he has, what he's using in the routine, and after that he will decide.
Great.
Also, I want to add here that we are working under some ISO certifications. So Moldiag is certified ISO 3 ISO 17025, it's ongoing, and we have 2 other certificates that are recognized internationally. We have also CE certification from Europe. So basically, we have done all the validation necessarily to go to the market. There is no difference between our product and the product coming from Europe or from US, for example.
Great. Thank you. I think that's an important consideration because as you can see, the questions that are coming, in addition to that, I think there is also a question which says, I think this is from Bernard, whether they are validated for use in Africa. Do they have WHO approval? I think they are talking about listing or PQ or equivalent.
Well, actually, we are working on that because we have the test for tuberculosis and hepatitis C. We are preparing a file to submit it to WHO for the pre-qualifications. And now we are really a step ahead. We are waiting only for the meeting with WHO to move forward this file. This for tuberculosis and hepatitis C. Okay.
Yeah, I would like to add something also for this, is that our kits has been already exported to some African countries, like I've said, Ivory Coast, Senegal, and Tunisia, and we've got a very good backup, yeah, or background from them, feedback. Sorry, a very good feedback from them, in a written way, and we can provide it as a as a very good example to the quality of our kit, because they compare our kit with the one that they are using, and they say that our kit is very efficient.
Great, thank you very much. I think still on the same aspect of viability. Of course, we are not promoting every country to have a manufacturing plant that probably is not sustainable. I want to pick up on this question from Julia, who says, outside of Morocco, what is your main market? Is it the private sector? Have you been able to access public sector markets elsewhere? If so, how? And let me combine that with a previous one, which had just come through, which says, what is your capacity to go beyond Morocco?
Well, actually, the startup MAScIR has a capacity of 6 million tests a month. So it is quite interesting, 6 million a month. And also, to go to the African market, so the goal is to go to the African market at second step. So now we have done Morocco. We have sold our tests in several countries in Africa, but we are trying to go to more other countries in Africa also.
Yeah. Another thing is that at the moment we have another test that it is under the screening by the FDA in the US. So we are also targeting some parts of the US that need our kits. We have someone which represents us there in the US as well.
Great. All right, shifting the line of questioning a bit, going to the products themselves. William Hatcher and Sam Peters wanted to know more. So William says, do you supply extraction kits as well, or just the PCR kits? Or then in addition, Sam says, how about equipment for the test?
Well, actually, for the extraction kit, it's under development. We provide only the PCR test, not extraction kit, but it's under validation. We are trying to make it here at MAScIR also.
Great.
Why we haven't been focused on this kind of things, because just we want to give more flexibility to the laboratory. Every laboratory has an extraction system which is different from the other one, so they can use whatever extraction they can, so they can use our reagent for the PCR. This is in our terms of flexibility as well.
Great. There is also a question from Noah Fongen of Africa CDC. He says, how can Africa CDC help you?
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
How can Africa CDC help you? This is a question from Noah.
Help us?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that CDC has started already to help us, because via CDC, we've been able to sell our tests to Pasteur Institute in Tunisia, in Ivory Coast, in Senegal. So this is thanks to CDC, actually. So we met with the CDC administration this year, and it's thanks to CDC that we've been able to sell our tests outside Morocco and mainly in Africa. But CDC could have a lot of help for us, because these are the ones who are responsible for this kind of things here in Africa, and they could promote our stuff.
CDC also introduced us to several health institutions like Pasteur Dakar, Pasteur Tunisia, and now we are starting collaboration with these centers. Also in Ghana and Cameroon, we are going to move forward to this institution in Ghana and Cameroon also.
Great. Thank you again. Moving on with the questions, coming back to the kind of products that are actually produced. We have this question from Fatou Bie. It's in French. So if I have not interpreted it correctly, please just help. but he or she is talking about the issue of One Health. Are you thinking of later on going beyond the medical laboratories, and also thinking of is talking about control of food laboratories?
Yeah.
Please, you are, I think, more fluent in French.
We prefer Arabic, but we can do it in French.
Do you want me to speak in French or?
Yeah, either way, you can, but people would need to just switch on to, you would need to go to the French.
Okay.
Maybe you just go on with English, and it continues with the interpretation.
Okay, I'm going to speak in
Or
French.
you can interpret both quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Donc, en ce moment, on travaille sur des trucs qui sont en relation avec la santé humaine, bien sûr. Mais le fait qu'on ait des biologistes moléculaires, on a développé une plateforme de biologie moléculaire. Et cette plateforme de biologie moléculaire peut développer des tests qui peuvent vraiment aider aussi pour la détection, le diagnostic des maladies qui existent soit chez les animaux, chez les végétaux, ou bien dans le système alimentaire. Et d'ailleurs, on a un kit en ce moment en développement pour la salmonelle dans les œufs et les poulets. C'est quelque chose qui affecte plus la partie agroalimentaire. Donc, ne sont pas vraiment limités par la santé humaine, mais on peut travailler aussi sur d'autres domaines. I'm switching in English just to translate what I've said. It's just because we are a molecular biologists and we have developed a platform, and this platform could be used to develop other kits for also industry, food industry, animal disease, animal food, as well as vegetal disease as well. So this is a platform that could be used to other domain and to other fields, and this is not a problem. And the best example is that we are at the moment developing a test for salmonella, which could be found in chicken and eggs.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that as well. And the interpreter was also doing the same. Thank you. So one of the key challenges that was mentioned earlier on when it comes to diagnostics, whether established or even new manufacturers, has been the issue of regulation. And I want to concur with Sunday Odeyemi here, who has picked up this subject in terms of what he is saying. Do you have any regulatory agency in your country that qualifies newly developed kits or methods before public use? So maybe you can speak to the issue of Morocco, and then whether you can speak to the other markets that you have tried to access and the challenges or successes with regulation that or you think would be critical to consider as we try to make sure that local or regional manufacturing is sustainable.
Well, actually, we have a regulatory agency in Morocco. It's called DMP. That's part of the Ministry of Health of Morocco. But I do believe the problem for regulation is between countries, because each country may have its own regulation. And that's make it a little bit difficult to introduce some kits to another countries. So what we need to do, we need to have really African regulation, an agency for Africa, like FDA, for example. It will be important that we have an agency here in Africa that will facilitate the entrance of diagnostic tests or medication to the market, rather than going to Europe, MA or FDA. But we need African agency, and that will help to introduce different tests or different medication between African countries. So that's what we need, I think.
Great. I think that's a great recommendation coming through. It's really about harmonization across the continent when it comes to the issue of regulation. Josie here has also another important consideration that is coming from his or her question. And Josie says, is there any policy, and I think this happens in many of the industries, is there any policy to encourage purchasing of locally produced products in Morocco now? If yes, has it been beneficial to your products?
Policy to encourage the production.
Encouraging
Yeah.
purchasing of locally produced products.
Well,
Is Morocco's policies helping you?
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, actually, after the COVID-19, you know, not only in Morocco, most of the African countries, they think how to help manufacture local diagnostic tests. And the government of Morocco followed this trend also. So they helped us a lot, because in the beginning it was difficult, but now after the COVID-19, we register our diagnostic tests easily within the DMP agency. So before it was difficult, you know, because this is a test that is manufactured in Africa. So the regulation was even sometimes not there. So, but now they are changing their mind, and they are preparing some regulation for tests that are manufactured in Morocco. So this is really important, because it was much easy to import diagnostic tests from Europe. They have MAScIR certification, or from US, they have FDA, but now they are helping the local manufacturer like MAScIR, like Moldiag, that we can go with our tests and we can get certification or authorization easily. It takes sometimes few months, but before it took maybe 1 year to 2 years.
Yeah,
but now it's really
making it
easier. We hope that in other African countries that will be the same situation.
Yeah, and in responding to your question about the fact that whether there is an encouragement to purchase our products, actually yes, because here in Morocco there is a regulation in which they state in any other items which has been manufactured locally in 100% Moroccan made in, so it has to be purchased by the government if you compare it to another one imported from outside. So this is a kind of regulation that encourage people to do their stuff themselves. Okay.
And also there is sometimes a help from the government with some budget to do manufacturing. There are some grants, research grants for market applied research, and also sometimes there is an incubator that is created for startups to help these startups move forward.
Yeah,
great, wonderful. Yeah, this is exciting indeed. Is Alika Mongi is also concurring that. Thank you for taking that leadership and the hard work that you have. And also going back to the issue of regulatory harmonization, I want to also acknowledge Noah again for sharing that. Indeed, I think as a continent, we have already started moving in the right path, the formation of the Africa Medicines Agency, and the already existing structures such as the Africa Medical Devices Forum that are already working in this space, helping the issues of regulations, and our continental bodies are supportive of this. The AMA and the MDF and related organs will continue to work with national regulatory authorities to ensure that we have this more harmonized approaches to regulations. Regulation, I think they use the term convergence, as he has put it there. Reliance, meaning we should be able to use what has already been done by our colleagues in terms of issues of validation, so that sometimes we don't unnecessarily prolong these issues of approvals based on repeat technologies, repeat validations that sometimes, unfortunately, many times they do not add additional value to the decision that is made. I know we are almost reaching the end of our session, but still there are quite a lot of important considerations that are there. What is the value of research and development when it comes to this sector, and speaking to your case and advice for local manufacturing in general?
Yeah.
What is the question? Please repeat the question.
Yeah, what would be the place for African research and development in informing what needs to be done, what needs to be manufactured when it comes to manufacturing of diagnostics across the continent?
Well, actually, the R&D is very important. So let's take the example of MAScIR. So we started the research and development 10 years ago in 2010, and we come up to the market only 2020. So it takes a long time to get from R&D to the market, especially in Africa. And because you need, as you know, you need financial, you need the investment, you need equipment, you need scientists that have expertise. And it took us a long time really to get to the market. It was not easy to bring a product to the market quickly. So it takes some time. You know, we need the patent for these kits, you need the publications, you need a lot of stuff before coming to the market.
And also the fact that we've been in this field since 2010 now, has really helped us to be ready for the pandemic. When the pandemic came, so what we have been able to develop our tests in something like 3 weeks with development and also validation that has taken us something like 2 months. So 2 months having a kit which is ready to be commercialized. And this is things that really summarize the fact that it has been based on a research and development which has started since 2010. And it's not something like that we've been, you know, genius to do such things. So just because we've been ready to respond to the pandemic. So research and development is something that needs time. Research and development needs money, but research and development needs, you know, consistency and insistence as well. And this is I think in my point of view, is the only way to get independence from outside.
Great. Indeed, it's one of those valley of deaths when it comes to moving manufacturing to see the light of day.
Yeah.
Along that line, there is currently the issue of technology transfer, twinning, whether you want to call it transfer totally or it's twinning with those established industries in other parts of the world. How has it been in your case? Have you had some technology transfer or twinning with other established industries that are already operating?
Well, actually, the startup MAScIR is now manufacturing our tests, but we have also, not all the tests are manufactured by MAScIR for the moment. We have also other tests in the pipeline that may go to pharmaceutical partner as licensing. It is possible. So we are open to any options. But for the moment, for example, COVID-19 is manufactured by MAScIR and the other tests, but we are open to license other tests or even to enter in partnership with a company that want to develop or to manufacture another test
in another country.
In another country.
We are able to do that.
Voila.
Yes.
Because we have this expertise now for and the platform for PCR that is 10 years old, and we have such expertise with the scientific people. They have expertise in this molecular testing. So I believe we can go quickly if there is partner who is really want to collaborate and to develop new tests for Africa, for example, infectious disease, you know, malaria, a lot of tests that are important to develop in for Africa. And MAScIR, with the partnership with other institutions in Africa, like Pasteur Institute, Dakar, Tunisia, Cote d'Ivoire, other institutions in South Africa, we are ready to collaborate together with them and put the effort together to get a product that will help all the African patients, not only Morocco. We believe that we need to work south-south rather than only Morocco. It's why now with the collaboration of CDC, we managed to send our tests in several countries, and these tests are cost-effective. They are not compared to the one imported from abroad. So this is cost-effective for African patients and for African countries.
Great.
You know, this is it's also the political way of Morocco and mainly our king under his guidance and also instructions that we have to work more towards the South-South and to interact with our friends and our brothers in African countries. This is the main things that we can create a 100% African product.
Great. Thank you very much. I was going to ask you to give closing remarks, but I think this is exactly what we just done. Indeed, to sum it up, like you have said, we really need to make sure we have commodity security for Africa if we are going to really genuinely have access to diagnostics for us to make products from Africa, for Africans, in line with the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. Colleagues, thank you for staying on. We went 2 minutes beyond your time.
I have one question, Anafi. For the attendee, if somebody needs some information about our tests, we can send the publications and any information people need for their knowledge.
I think that they have our emails and phones number if they want to connect us.
Yes, we will put these as we share these slides. Thank you very much. And it's been a wonderful session. We would like to close it for now and see you in our next session. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you.